Audio description for Look After Yourself. This film, Look After Yourself, presents a series of moving images synchronized with a spoken soundtrack. The people speaking do not appear on screen. Split screen. On the left side, a cityscape at dusk. Speech bubbles pop up on the right, synchronized with the voice.
I live in a culture where, when I'm unwell, people say to me, "Look after yourself."
Title: Look After Yourself. A city street at night as viewed through the reflective glass of ascending and descending lifts. Between 2014 and 2017, Inclusion London and 5 deaf and disabled people's organizations ran a program called Into Sport to get disabled people in London to become more active. An animated image of a ping pong player mirrored so that the figure plays against themselves in slow motion.
When I was on Intersport, what made me do exercise? I suppose support from my family. Also, I really enjoyed exercise. I was always overweight. That's why I just got into an exercise routine. I attended regular classes. I remembered every morning to bring my gym stuff with me in the morning. I also used it as social activity. Like instead of just like sitting down in a pub, meeting people, we went out cycling, which I really enjoyed. It also really helped me with my stress levels.
Sunshine reflects on the water along a coastline shore. Gradually, the camera zooms in on the star-like sparkles twinkling on the surface.
What caused you to increase your activity during the period of Intersport?
My back did, because I slipped a disc in my back, so I had to get quite serious about being fit, both for working in the woods and then also being in the office and sitting down all day. So it was being fit and strong to enable both these two things to still happen.
What things do you think help disabled people access sport?
I think a nice environment to do the sport in, I think, is important. It's got to be affordable to do. Disabled people have to find sport that they enjoy and like doing.
A view of the Earth from space reveals a blue surface marbled with white streaks as the globe slowly rotates.
Frequent reminders. I know Intersport already sends the questionnaire how much sports you did on a regular basis, which gave me an incentive to reflect how much sport I actually did. And if I felt it wasn't enough, then I actually adjusted it. But if I felt that like, oh yeah, I actually did quite a lot, it made me feel better about myself.
As highlights of the spoken text appear on screen, we glide like a ship over rolling surf in bright daylight.
As a physically disabled person, there are a number of factors that help me to engage into sports. The first steps to involvement are often the most important, such as being correctly informed. If it's a specific sport, such as wheelchair rugby, what parameters are in place? Is there a cost? How many players are involved? What time is needed to play the game? Location, distance, accessibility, availability and allocation. Information such as this allow me to plan ahead for the Aspire Channel Challenge swim. This was over 1,200 lengths in a 25-metre pool, which I did in about 4 to 5 weeks. Friendly support in a comfortable environment is useful for newcomers who are able to observe first. This can inform an individual's expectations and requirements, as well as standard benefits of taking part, such as improving fitness, being part of a team, gaining mental and physical strength, which can lead on to an improved sense of well-being. These might actually be big steps for an individual with a physical impairment. Adapting equipment to suit an individual's needs to increase general involvement, such as power chair football grills, boccia ramps, or rule changes for a level playing field, can help to involve a lot more people.
A view in sepia through the opening in the wooden floor of a train of the ground passing below. In Britain, Men who have spent their entire lives in quadrangles, at school, at college, at the bar, in Parliament, instruct us to stand on our own 2 feet. October 2016, George Monbiot.
Seen from a low angle, logs burn at the edge of a wood. The image is split vertically, with the left side mirroring the right.
I've found with mental illness, I've given virtually all of my attention to my inner or spiritual life, and I've struggled with all other details, all other aspects of my life, particularly with admin and chores. I really need help to make things happen. I need help to make things happen, and often not very much help, but just a bit of help can make all the difference.
So what do you think of this argument that the government says of, oh, we're trying to make people more independent?
I think it's rubbish.
A dry field of grazing elk at the edge of a forest.
I'm more communitarian. I think we all of us need help, whether we know it or not. We know that we need help at the end of our lives when we're ill. And I would say particularly people with mental illness need help in the middle of their lives. My experience of mental illness certainly has been that what I've struggled with is not irrationality or lack of intellect. It's lack of will, it's lack of motivation, it's lack of drive, it's lack of direction. These are the things that I've needed help with, and I appreciate the help I get from other people.
A blanket of clouds as seen from an airplane passes slowly under bright sunshine.
Do you find that sport gives you that will?
I would say it does. I mean, certainly I've found that an hour's gym session gives me a huge feeling of satisfaction when I've finished. Because it does involve, even with the help of the personal trainer, it takes a lot of will on my own part to get through it. And that gives me a sense of achievement. And it also makes me feel stronger, which is a good thing to feel. So I've particularly found that very rewarding. And I'm sure it's very good for your health. I feel that feeling fitter and stronger helps hugely with both physical and mental health.
Do you think disabled people understand, or the general public at large understand, what access means?
I don't think that word access is very commonly used. I think the term adjustments or reasonable adjustments would be maybe more commonly used. In terms of what does it mean, and this kind of gets to the nub of the problem with trying to, as it were, lump together all disabled people under one category, is that there's just such a vast diversity of different needs which come under and there's an advantage to having a term disabled because it can unite people to unite with each other in our diversity and campaign for change. But if it's seen in a very kind of simplistic way, it can just be like, all disabled people need X or all disabled people need Y. And that's obviously rubbish, because one of the key differences in how adjustments or access, whatever you want to call it, can be seen is the differences between, as it were, one-off physical adjustments and ongoing support. That to me gets to the nub of what the divisions in the disability movement.
Black and white images show close-ups of hands, arms, feet, and other body parts of figures in motion.
Because the disability movement, if you're going back decades, started very much from physically disabled people. Use a cliche, what they were fighting for was things like, ramps to get into buildings. So what you're looking at there is a one-off piece of expenditure to transform the physical environment for people in wheelchairs, people with mobility problems. That's great, and that's all well and good, and that's brilliant that battle we've moved a long way in that battle in the last 30, 40 years.
A landscape shows a large bare tree and a series of smaller ones silhouetted along a hillscape with the sun just below the horizon.
But it's a very different thing when you're talking about other forms of disability where it's not a one-off expenditure, it's an ongoing support. You can't just go, okay, we're going to give you a little bit of help and then you're on your own, because it's just useless to somebody who's a non-verbal, autistic or severely learning disabled person. To have them access public services, like gyms and libraries and public facilities, it's going to be useless to them if it's a sort of, one day in the year, or, give them a leaflet as a one-off. Ramps is like neither here nor there to them. It's they need, it's twofold in my view. What the people need is they need a much broader understanding, so that when people behind the counter in the local gym, somebody comes with a severe learning disability, they have some sort of training or some awareness, so that they're not going to go, oh, why is that person here? They're behaving oddly or they're behaving strangely, and they get lots of negative vibes. So it's kind of acceptance and understanding, but also physical support, somebody there to help you, or having a support worker getting free.
A sunset-lit cloudscape seen from the window of an airplane, with horizontal stripes of yellow, orange, pink and lavender.
I know, for example, Better Gym is disabled friendly and it's also affordable. However, not everyone would spend £10 a month, especially like quite a lot of disabled people I met. Thankfully, my disability, only dyslexia, but I met quite a lot of disabled people as part of my studies and as part of my social engagements who wouldn't spend £10 a month on the gym.
Circular flares of light pulsate in yellow and green.
Wouldn't it be nice if I lived in a culture where when I said I'm a disabled person, people said to me, what are your access requirements?
An abstracted image repeated in frames on the left and right of a gilt-edged clock pendulum swinging in slow motion. The two pendulums swing at different speeds, out of sync. The image on the left reflects bright red highlights, while the one on the right is highlighted in blue.
Another world is not only possible, she is on her way. On a quiet day, I can hear her breathing. Arundhati Roy.
Title: Huge thanks to all involved, featuring DH, GS, CDS, ZD, SM, JM, TDS, and Benny Henricus. Contributors to research: Professor Tom Shakespeare, Professor Michael DeSweet, Dr. June Crown, Becky Goldsmith, Catherine Long and Brian LaBelle, Pippa Riddick, production. Logos: Inclusion Barnet, Inclusion London, Into Sport, lottery-funded Sport England. A collaboration between NICR Productions and Film Pro, 2017.